and we do not support this suspension.
Thank you, Senator Conroy. Senator Ludlam.
Thank you, Mr Acting Deputy President. I rise to support this suspension motion because what we are seeing in front of us is, by very definition, precisely the kind of mission creep that was predicted at the outset here in the United States and in the United Kingdom. Nobody has ever made clear, from the Prime Minister's office on down, what the primary objective of the mission is. What is the rationale? What is the desired end state? What does success look like? And I strongly take issue with Senator Conroy's comments, although they are reflected by those of Senator Fifield, that because the executive has access to classified intelligence materials, that decision somehow lies outside this place. Because these are not tactical decisions that are made. These are very, very political decisions. The decision to deploy in a democracy is not a military decision. It is a decision that should be taken democratically. And I think, and Senator Fifield let the cat out of the bag a short time ago, President Obama had to go to Congress. Prime Minister Cameron had to go to Westminster because, in part, of the debacle of the 2003 invasion of Iraq, presided over by a substantial fraction of Abbott government frontbenchers, not a single one who has uttered a word of contrition or apology for that catastrophe, nonetheless demanding that we be led blindfolded into another deployment. The very same people who presided over that disaster are now leading us into another. These are political decisions. Once the political decision has been made, as it has been in Washington, as it has been in London, then you turn over the considerations to the military. That's where your classified intelligence material comes into play. Politicians should not get involved in specifics of deployments. They are military and strategic decisions. This is a political one. And effectively what we have heard from Senator Conroy and Senator Fifield is a declaration of incompetence. You're willing to let the Prime Minister stand up in front of as many flags as he can muster in desperate search of a bounce in the polls to announce a deployment. You would not be willing to put your name on the voting register as having supported that deployment when it all goes horribly sideways, as it did after 2003. If it's good enough for President Obama, if it's good enough for Prime Minister Cameron, and as our Prime Minister Abbott has identified, the Iraqi authorities need to give consent for Australian troop deployments and positioning in Iraq. So effectively it's everybody except us. Australia that just goes traipsing along behind our great and powerful ally, the United States, as we've done into so many disastrous deployments, everyone except Australia. So, Senator Fifield, if not now, then when? Should we wait for a Prime Ministerial press conference, through you, Mr Acting Deputy President, for again the PM to array himself in front of an extraordinary display of flags, responding to announcements that have been leaked and foreshadowed by other leaders in the media for weeks? You expect the Parliament to behave like that in the face of one of the most significant, if not the most significant decision that a legislature or an executive can make? I strongly disagree, Senator Fifield, through you, Mr President. The time for that debate is now, and the place for it is here, not in the context of some prime ministerial brain snap that may or may not have happened, no matter how well-intentioned. That debate should happen in the open air, in the light of day, in an elected parliament. That's what this place is for. Now, if other democracies have grown up enough, either through the war power being vested in Congress hundreds of years ago, or much more recently in the instance of Westminster, reacting to the debacle of Iraq, there is now a convention. It's not put to a vote, but senators here will be well aware that the Royal Military was prevented from being put into the fight in Syria by debate in Westminster. That is how mature democracies make these decisions, not on the basis of plans drawn up on the backs of envelopes by Prime Ministers desperate for a lift in the polls. That is not how deployments should occur in modern democracies. I tell you what is offensive, Senator Fifield, is simply being told that we have to trust this Prime Minister on the most significant decision that a nation can make, against the background or the backdrop of a series of disastrous captain's calls. It's about time we grew up and submitted these discussions and these debates and ultimately these decisions to those elected MPs who will then need to live with the decisions that they make.